All right, folks. Sure. Yeah, no problem. All right, folks, good afternoon. It is a wonderful day here, not in paradise, well, in the tropics, a different kind of tropics, metropolitan type of tropics. This is Anthony Weeks. This is NBC Live in the Marketplace, and I'm here at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Miami, and I'm hanging out with a couple of colleagues of mine. And today was a very special day. Today was special for me because, and David as well, it's our first time attending the second, if you will, installment of the Invest Miami publication, which is administered by, published by Capital Analytics Associates. As we've mentioned on a number of occasions, we are working in a collaborative fashion with Capital Analytics Associates. They are doing a steward job, yeoman's job, I should say, in terms of looking at really providing a one-stop shop publication or platform where if you want to know everything there is to know about doing business in Miami, investing in Miami, and David, that's the reason why we contacted him, because we understood that if we were going to look at creating market linkages, and look at how we can create opportunities for collaboration for the region. It's not just about U.S. Virgin Islands, it's not just about the individual islands, and there are many, as you know. But I think there is strength in numbers, and I think if we sort of combine our resources and our collective will, we're able to create that bridge, that virtual economic bridge between the region, Caribbean, the Americas, and the likes of South Florida, which is an entry point here in the U.S. mainland. What do you think?
I think in many respects, the Miami area is the capital of the Caribbean, and so it's where all the Caribbean islands.
I think New York would take exception to that.
Is anyone from New York listening? What we saw today in the Invest Miami luncheon conference was a showcase of what Miami has been able to accomplish in their educational system, some of the things that have moved education forward, which drives economic development in any region, certainly here. And we're able to hear from universities as well as entrepreneurs who are making a difference in Miami. And in many respects, turning Miami into one of the major metropolitan areas that's leading in virtually all of the economic indicators that count, that have to do with growth, have to do with sustainability, have to do with positioning a city for the future. And I think the reason that it's useful for us to be attending a conference like this is that in many respects it challenges us from the Virgin Islands to think about what we can be doing better, and at the same time it encourages us because many of the issues that have been identified here in the conference today are very similar to the issues that we're facing in the Virgin Islands.
Absolutely. And when you think of most people from the Americas and the Caribbean, when they think of migrating to the mainland, they're looking for a warm climate. And so it's a natural, sort of fit for where people want to be. And we do have a lot of Virgin Islanders, if you will, that have chosen to live in the state of Florida, particularly Buddington in South Florida. And one of the highlights for me was meet the dean, or one of the dean of Johnson Wales University, because when I told her where we were from, and the fact that we were Caribbean people, and she got excited. She said, "Guess what? I'm Guyanese," and so it just really kicked off a really good interview that we did with her, and we hope that we'll have an opportunity to hear that interview with us in our virtual studio here at the Intercontinental Hotel. Is the beautiful, intelligent, dynamic Abby Meloney. She is the executive director of the Invest Miami Capital Analytics initiative. And I just want to say welcome. It's not your first time. It's going to be a second time on the program. And well, you were first time on NBC Live in the marketplace. You're a guest on the Economic Roundtable.
Got it.
So welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for having me.
So let me just say, great job.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you
enjoyed
very
it.
much.
You chose a very beautiful venue.
Yes.
Love the backdrop.
Oh my goodness.
How do you concentrate with something like that?
You have to put down the shades
Yeah,
because it's just too
that's
gorgeous.
That's what we did. That's exactly what we did. But congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Did a good job. Full house.
Yes.
And it must be quite a task to sort of pull the entire community together like this. You had a combination of academia as well as the business community. How difficult was it to put some of it together?
You know, I think our platform is such that we're, over the course of the research time to put together this report, we're sitting with over 200 executives, and they're from all different sectors. So while we're getting to know what is Miami so that we can properly report on Miami, they're getting to know us. So when we're putting together an event, it's, we have built these relationships that people are very keen to know what we're going to be speaking about at our conference. And I think another thing that you experience a lot with conferences, which is quite natural, they're very sector specific. So you're going to a financial conference, you're going to a technology conference, so to bring different individuals from different backgrounds on one stage is very engaging and interesting to Miami. And one of the points I made when we started, I said, Miami is not one story, it's many. So while it's great to get a snapshot of one industry versus another, to have a more deeper understanding via different industries on one stage, I think gives you a more complete picture of what is actually happening in Miami, because there's so much happening here.
My colleague, David Zumwalt, I think he brings an interesting perspective for a couple of reasons. He was why I say that. He's from the technology space, number one. He's also, he's one of the, if you will, when I use the word pioneer, one of the initial principles involving the creation of the University of Virgin Islands Research and Technology Program. He's from the private sector, but again, there is a building, a center that you can attribute to his work and working with the university and the policymakers to create this technology program. So he knows something about academia and he knows something about the private sector. What do you say in terms of the responsiveness to, the idea of both communities wanting to create, like someone said, not Silicon Valley, but something comparable to it? That vision itself, is that something people gravitate to? Do they see that? Or they say it's something we don't want to do? We don't want to do that.
No, definitely the feedback that I hear here is very much supporting building an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, and I think Jared Davis was the one who made the point on our panel. It's in our being, from the settlers who came here to the Latin Americans who have come in more recent years, Cuban Americans, and then you find, me myself, I'm from the South Jersey area, you find a lot of Easterners coming down. And everyone's coming here with almost that American dream to make it, to carve out a space for yourself, to start something new. And so Miami actively supports those new initiatives and new companies. I think you, of course, need that kind of support, that ecosystem and community that is going to support and propel these entrepreneurs to do their thing, so to speak. But you obviously need educators and the educational platform to prepare those entrepreneurs, to connect the students to the business community. You need institutions like the Beacon Council with their one community, one goal, really creating ties between the major universities here and the business community so that we can continue with new startups and new companies and new ideas.
David, what's your take on what you saw today? This great event that Abby and colleagues put together.
Well, just continuing what Abby was saying, I was encouraged by, I think it was Eugene Anderson, who was the dean of the University of Miami School of Business, who talked about the fact that disruption has not yet come to academia. And he is curious about what's going to happen when it does. In some sense, it has started, because in the case of the public school system here in the Miami-Dade area, beginning in 2008 and 2009, given the economic downturn, the school district was facing a monumental crisis. What the keynote speaker talked to as 3 different bankruptcies that had to be addressed, but taking advantage of the fact that the crisis gave an opportunity to really rethink the way that the school district could become more efficient. The Miami-Dade system has turned into one of the leading, if not the leading, arguably the leading public school systems in the United States. And I bring this up because you were asking about takeaways, and I think about the challenges in the Virgin Islands with our own school system and the issues that we faced beginning in about 2008 and 2009 with the economic downturn. And in Miami, I think we have a template perhaps to follow, or at least to consider, because while Miami has resources that the U.S. Virgin Islands does not have, how we respond to the challenges says a lot about where we can go as a community. And sometimes it requires a community to serve as a beacon so that we know what is possible and know what mistakes to avoid and how we can take advantage of the resources that we do have and turn them into to growth and to an upside for our community. So, that was the overarching message. This was not just a luncheon showcasing how wonderful a few companies or universities in the Miami area are. This was a pretty frank, for an hour and a half, 2-hour presentation, look at the sorts of challenges that this region has faced, how it's addressed those challenges, what it still thinks that it has to do, and yet the key performance indicators, if you will, all appear to be good. And so it's encouraging to see that happen, because as an entrepreneur, you'd want to be able to work in a community where you could see things like that happen and those sorts of positive results be achieved.
And can I make a point?
Sure, absolutely.
Just to add on to that, and I'm happy that that message came across to you, because there's many platforms that exist that I think have not given the kind of sophistication, presentation of information in a way that Miami deserves. And we very much see that as our mandate. We want to showcase that Miami is not just this boom and bust real estate market. There's so much going on here, and it's not 1 or 2 shining stars that put their name on fancy buildings or something like that. It is a whole community that deserves sophisticated information for those outside of this market.
You chose, your keynote speaker was the superintendent of Miami-Dade County Public School, Alberto Cavallo.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed his message.
Yes, he's a wonderful speaker.
But I can't help but think what David said in terms of the disruption in education. David, when you say disruption, are you saying disruption on the collegiate level? Are you saying disruption across the board, K to 12, higher education? I mean, is this a totally organic disruption, or just an isolated collegiate level issue?
And that's a really good question. I was primarily reacting to the fact that there was a dean in a business school who was recognizing the disruption had not yet come to most academic institutions. And in his case, we're talking about a university environment. And so I'm not trying to comment specifically on what that disruption needs to look like or will look like. I think the broader point is, if you think about the economic shifts that have happened over the last decade or so, virtually every area of our economy has been disrupted. Workforce has been disrupted, business models have been disrupted, and technology has been disrupted in and of itself. And yet, universities, according to this dean, have not been disrupted. So, if disruption is coming, I think that ultimately the universities that respond to that disruption positively are going to be the leaders in the future. I don't know what that disruption will look like.
But what happens?
But if it's coming, it's.
But what happens if, let's say, hypothetically, I'm not saying this, but being playing the devil's advocate for a second, you have a huge bureaucratic task of trying to get universities, because they're pretty slow at making changes adopted to a new environment. But let's say the public schools on the K to 12 have made the changes, and they've embraced disruption, and they're making necessary changes to change the curriculum to teach the students. now you have more students now ready to go to college, and the universities are not prepared. Still haven't gotten their arms around the disruption issue and making the changes within their curriculum at the universities.
Well, one of the other panelists pointed out that it may not just be curriculum that's disrupted. It could be that universities have a role to play in leading the leaders or teaching the leaders. I think was the point that they made. That if you're going to have a business,
The fact you said faculties.
Leaders in the private sector. So,
Private sector.
So if you have entrepreneurs, for example, who learn the hard way pretty quickly that they've got to pivot, that what they start out trying to do may or may not be what the business ends up doing when they realize the market's heading in a different direction. That ability to pivot is something that can be learned. Okay, it's a discipline that may come naturally to some, not to others. But the idea of perhaps taking a 4-year course curriculum to learn that doesn't play in the world of entrepreneurship today. But to be able to deal with the disciplines of pivoting or the disciplines of leadership, these are areas where some thought leadership needs to be able to be brought to bear to help executives who are emerging or growing in businesses react to the sorts of challenges that they have. So I think that this other panelist who brought this up was speaking to the fact that perhaps universities have a role to play in doing things that are outside of curriculum, or instead geared towards, I think you mentioned on the entrepreneurial level boot camps, but this would be more leadership training, and it wouldn't be measured in weeks, but it can be measured in even days, ways to interact with the community differently than traditional universities have been prepared to do.
Abby, what was the thought process when you chose your keynote speaker? But it's a two-part question. Why was it necessary to focus on academia at this point for your second publication, That's Miami? Does it have to do with, is there a consensus that obviously if we're going to become a technology hub, that we need to have this conversation now and not later? And why did you choose someone from the public school?
Yeah, well, I think when you're looking at tech startups or examples in the tech sphere, you see a lot of people that have dropped out of college and may have not finished their education. So there's one argument there, but I do think that when you're talking about an ecosystem, so not only its leaders and where they're educated, but everyone who's a part of that company, it's really important that there is a strong educational platform. And I think Florida, for a very long time, and arguably still is looked at as not a great place for kids to go to school, whether it be higher education or K through 12. But here, as we definitely heard today, the superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, has done amazing work in really making Miami an exemplar of what can be K through 12 education and what that means. And he really believes in choice. This is not just. And I myself was familiar with all the different types of school, magnet schools, charter schools, and so on, because I just went to your standard public school growing up, and there wasn't many options where I grew up. Here, you can, as a teenager, study aviation, robotics, business, leadership. It starts the dialogue much earlier about what are the kids' strengths and weaknesses. And it is adapting to the ever-evolving climate of what is the future of business. So it was essential that we pull someone like him in, and he no doubt is not only has been very successful in his efforts here at Miami-Dade as superintendent, but engages with an audience so powerfully that his message is understood and felt, and we want to support where he's going after this. So.
It's like I can't help when I look at one of the questions that you ask is why Miami? And obviously your publication speaks to invest in Miami. Do you think you're making the case?
I hope so. I hope so.
Only because you have a number of major metropolitan cities compete for the same thing.
Absolutely.
GE, Connecticut lost GE to Boston, and so there is that competitiveness between the states and the municipalities to keep these major corporations. When you say invest in Miami, the question I want to ask is why Miami?
Number one,
what is that special
everyone must
something
go
about
to our website and make sure that you get a copy of our book so you can read it in length, because we discuss it at length, showcasing 14 different sectors.
Where's that website?
That is www.capitalaa.com, which is short for Capital Analytics Associates. So rather than spelling that out, let's shorten it up, make it simple. Simply put, Miami is a young market. It is adaptable and it's ready for change. It wants change. It supports growth. We don't have the size in office space for the Fortune 500s, but maybe that is something that we will develop too. It's very much an SME market here, and very much entrepreneurial at our core, like we spoke before. There is so many places to get so many pots to put your hands in. That you can't come here and say there's not anywhere where I cannot participate, I cannot contribute. Contrary to that, you can participate at any level, and Miami is a global market by its just its geographic location, but more I think people just assume it's a great gateway to the Americas. We have a huge European population here. We have a growing Asian population. Our books are with the Miami-Dade government right now in Shanghai and Taiwan, and we have a translated edition for them in Mandarin that will speak directly to these people to help bring them here. Yes, it's incredible. And I think what is very interesting about this, our first language to translate the book was not Spanish nor Portuguese. It was Mandarin. And I think that's really telling about what, and our partners, obviously the government, how they're seeing the future growth. We need that future vision. Canadians have been investing in South Florida for the longest time. So it really is a global community, a global market. It's very friendly. We forget that in other areas of the world, in the United States, it might not be so easy as a foreigner to adapt yourself to that city, a way of living, and start business. Miami, here it's second nature. Let's be honest. I am the outsider here. I'm a minority here, and I love that. I love it.
Do you see an interest by the Middle Eastern,
Middle East,
Middle Eastern community where
definitely.
Saudi Arabia just announced about a week ago that they're going to create this huge sovereignty fund, investment fund. Right now, it's worth $2 trillion, but 95% of that currently is invested on a domestic project. What they're saying is that by 2020, I believe it is, they want to now have at least 50% of the sovereignty fund invested overseas in foreign international type projects. I brought it up to say, are you guys paying attention to what's happening in terms of the Middle East? Is there an interest to bring, if you listen to Donald Trump, they're not coming. At least you can keep them away.
Oh, goodness.
But
that's a whole other conversation.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. But anyway, it's $2 trillion. That's they're saying in 2020, $1 trillion they're looking to invest overseas.
Absolutely. I personally lived in Dubai. I lived in Doha. I've been everywhere in the Middle East. And just the physical nature of this city, the tall buildings, the nice beaches, the 5-star lifestyle, luxury at every turn, it lends to them so much. And we already see, I know this is not exactly the Middle East, but we have a nonstop flight now from Turkey, from Istanbul. We had a nonstop flight from Doha, Qatar start over a year ago. I'm hearing rumors of other airlines from the Middle East looking to do direct flights. And first you get the direct flights, secondarily you will get massive visitors and, we hope massive. You will get more visitors and you will get more, obviously, for investments. So they're here in some fashion, but I do think that is something that will increase. Now that particular sovereign wealth fund, I don't know if those monies will come here. I think that, anyone's hope is that there will be secure investments coming in from educated individuals, and they definitely have very ready teams, not just in Saudi Arabia, but other countries there too, that hopefully will look at Miami and see it as a valuable place to come into business.
So I want to kick over a little anthill.
Ooh.
A little one.
It's probably more than the first time, but I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You talked about how people were open to change here in Miami, and certainly that is not universally true. There have to be people who are resistant to change, even in a place like Miami. This is one of the challenges that I think confront people in Virgin Islands and other Caribbean islands. Change is something that might be desired, but change is also uncomfortable because what it might end up meaning or what it might bring. So I'm just curious, as you think about how Miami has become more open to change, why is that? And why does Miami now have a reputation as being change-friendly?
That is a really good question. I haven't thought about why it is so, and I guess
You're really tripping her up, aren't you?
yeah. If I'm just gonna like kind of give an answer right now, I guess because Miami's, although there are populations of families here that have been here for a significant amount of time, I really don't think we're talking over 5 generations. So that in itself is very new, and that population is very small. So when you're a newcomer, even if you're only here 3 generations, I think that they're just more open to the newcomer. Oh, my grandfather came here X amount of years ago. That's a normal thing. You're watching the city kind of build, so you know there's going to be people who will be living in it. The change and increase in population in the international environment is not always easy, but I have to say it is curiously easy here. Actually, now that you're pointing out, making that point. And I think also, you look at other areas of the United States that the Latino population, it is predominantly Mexican in certain areas or Guatemalan in other areas. We have everything here. And so I think also just expecting that it's not just my Cuban neighbor, as many people might think that is the case, although clearly we have a large Cuban population, there's everything. And so with that comes little tiny differences in the Spanish language, and that's acceptable, and that's fun. And, with that, okay, you don't speak Spanish, you speak Portuguese, oh, you're Brazilian, oh, no, you're actually from Europe, oh. So I think that it's just, I don't know, fun, acceptable, been here a bit, getting bigger, so if it's always there in some fashion, once it gets bigger, it's okay. I don't know, good. It's curiously acceptable.
Do you think Miami has been able to keep its identity through all of these changes?
That's a work in progress.
I think I don't know how well I can answer that question, but there is a saying that we say, it's so Miami, and the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau has kind of coined this term. And you kind of know what that is, even if you don't know what it is. It's beautiful beaches, it's beautiful people, it's big tall skyscrapers, it's hearing different languages in the streets, it's arriving late to the party, whatever that means. It's so Miami. Everyone just kind of smiles and knows what that means when you're here. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, Abby, I want to thank you so much for
Thank you
taking
for
the time
having me, and thank you for
to
being
chat.
here.
Yes, absolutely. We believe that we offer an opportunity to really bring perspective on how the Caribbean and Americas, particularly the Caribbean, can offer some sort of value to the work that you're doing. And so we look forward to what the future holds in terms of collaboration. The book we're about to, the station is going to be playing the interview. I'm sorry, your keynote speech. But the book, tell us again, where can people get the book?
So you can find it on our website, which is www.capitalanalyticsassociates.com, or more easily, capitalaa.com. We also have a Facebook page, a YouTube page, Twitter, Instagram. All of that information can be found on our website, but either under Capital Analytics or Investment.
Fantastic. David, any closing remarks?
Just want to congratulate Abby again on a wonderful program. I'm sure that she's ready to go hit the beach. We're keeping her from whatever she had.
It is Miami, right? You know it when you see it. It's Miami.
Unfortunately, it's more pressing. It's the hunger pains.
Okay.
Well, do encourage listeners to listen to the keynote address because this was an important message of how change was brought to the public school system in Miami, dealing with similar issues that we've been facing in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Fantastic. All right, folks, there you have it. We were live, provided live coverage of the 2016 Invest Miami conference. This is Anthony Weeks and Dave Zumwalt here at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown Miami. This is NBC Live in the Marketplace, powered on WSDX 970 AM and the Code Network. We will talk soon.
Thank you very much. This is great.
Yes.